Hello everyone and welcome to another video in our Road to the World Champs series. I've got big news this week. We have a players pack finally. So that has been basically the sole focus of my entire week. Is looking over that and looking into exactly how it's going to run, including the scoring matrix, which was a bit different than what I anticipated. It's basically to dumb it down, and because the tournament organizer has requested that none of us share the players pack as of yet, as it is still only a draft, so all of this is subject to change. It is, as from what I can understand, almost a 50-50 split between painting and games. Games just being purely win-loss for the best overall, and then there also is a best general award as well, which is just purely whoever can win all their games. That is very different to what I anticipated. I assumed that there would be quite a large portion of it would be sportsmanship, as other Games Workshop events that I've been to have had. So that was a bit of a surprise. There is a mention in the pack about how they expect just a high level of sportsmanship across the board, which is always good to see. You never want to go to a tournament that is just touted as the top level competitive, because some people will then use that as an excuse to just to not have the nicest games. Which is always disappointing, because there's always two people involved in the game, and it's your job as a player to make sure the other person is having fun. But yeah, having a players pack is a lot of good news, because it means that we can kind of go through that in more detail and know exactly what it's going to be like. There is going to be an absolute stack of games over the weekend. I believe I haven't read it for the last day. I've had other stuff on. But I believe there can be up to about 10 or 11 games, depending on where you sit in tiebreakers. So the first stage is basically all the pool. Everyone gets sorted into pools, and you play 2 days in your pool. And then the top players of each pool then go into the championship bracket, which is your kind of your top tier bracket, where that's where all your winners go. And everyone else goes into the world's pool, which is your bottom tier bracket. But you still get an absolute stack of games. The big thing that they did point out in the players pack is that even with the championship bracket breakdown, until that point you can actually drop one game in your first pool, which is really cool, as just a bit of an option there if your list doesn't stack up against a particular type and you get a bad draw, which is good to hear, because the list that I was thinking of taking does have a few bad matchups, so that's really good. The not having any sportsmanship part is really kind of put me between a rock and a hard place. There are a lot more competitive lists that I could have taken, but those lists are a lot less enjoyable for my opponent, hence why I've lent away from them. With that being said, though, the list that I was planning on taking is definitely the best painted Age of Sigmar army that I own. I've had a couple of friends reach out and say that I am welcome to borrow their armies, but I really think for something like this I want to be taking my own models. So I've got some thinking to do over the next couple of days, whether or not I want to try and switch tack completely, go out and buy an army, or pick up an army that I can then paint up to the level that I'm happy with to then practice it. Or I can go with this list that I've been practicing for the last couple of months, which I am really enjoying how it plays. But yeah, that's kind of where I am at the moment. At this point in time, I am leaning towards keeping the list that I have been practicing, only because I have got so much experience with it. It will be very hard to replicate that. But with that being said, my wife did point out to me today that I actually have only a single weekend between now and the event that I don't have some form of games planned. So I'm definitely burning through a lot of the brownie points that I have stacked up over the years. But she understands that this is a very big thing for me, and I want to do the very best that I can. So getting in games is very important to that. So that's where I am at the moment. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play any competitive games this week, but I did teach a new guy in the community. I gave him his first game of AOS. And it was fun. He was a really nice guy. He extensively plays 40k, so he picked everything up very quickly. And he absolutely stomped me. But that's always the intention of those learn to play first impressions types games. You want to be able to kind of rig it so that the person learning to play gets all the feel goods for winning their first game. I always try and rig it so that I can kind of show off some cool interactions of the rules. He was playing Nighthaunt, so I set it up so that there was a really good opportunity for him to retreat and then charge, which is one of their big rules. The other thing that I did in that game was I deliberately took some stuff with very high rend. That when one of our opponents came over and was talking, I kind of motioned to him to mention it, and he kind of exclaimed that how good the ethereal rule is for Nighthaunt. It's 50-50. It all depends on how well you can roll four ups. Is frankly how good it is. But in that situation, it was another good example of just making sure that the person learning had a really good time. So, but unfortunately, that's all I've done this week. That and read through the players pack and think about it. And that's basically it. So I'm hopefully going to be making a call about what list I am going to take within the next couple of days, because if I decide not to go with the list that I've got fully painted and been practicing, I have a lot of painting on the horizon. So I will leave everyone there, and I'll talk to everyone next week. See ya.